and welcome to the second instalment of the Banned Histories, a retrospective of Dark Horse Aliens comics. As per last time, we're looking at the comics in the context that they were written. That is, in the time following the release of Aliens and before Alien 3. The stuff post-Alien 3 comes later on. And as usual, spoiler alert. Don't watch this if you want to read this stuff yourself. This time we're looking at Aliens. It later became known as Nightmare Asylum. Not sure why. The simpler title was Book 2 and featured 4 issues released between August 1989 and May 1990. It's a sequel to, as you might have guessed, Book 1, and the story picks up a few weeks after the end of that book. Hicks, Newt and Butler, Newt's marine android boyfriend, well, half a boyfriend, have stowed away on a small freighter escaping the alien invasion of Earth. They bide their time watching transmissions from Earth showing the devastation the aliens have wrought. One in particular stands out. A man, his daughter, and another man live streaming the alien apocalypse. They show how alien devotees are rounding up survivors and taking them to a nearby queen. I'm not sure why the aliens couldn't do this, but anyway. Hicks is all maudlin and shit, and Newt is all maudlin and shit after she has a tiff with Butler, who's still coming to terms with the fact that he's a robot, and his business end got left on the alien homeworld a few issues back. Newt goes to try and sleep and has a nightmare about Hicks trying to get into her knickers. Then a full-grown alien bursts out of Hicks and Newt wakes up, believing the nightmare was caused because there are aliens on board. Hicks and Butler don't buy it, but Newt convinces Hicks to search the ship anyway. They find a hatch breached via alien acid which miraculously hasn't corroded through the bottom of the ship. They also find 4 chest-bursted bodies in cryotubes. Newt comments that she thought gravity drives made hypersleep obsolete, which explains why they're not in hypersleep. Kind of. It was a 3-week trip to LV-426 in the second film and they slept. Why not now to conserve resources? Moving right along, the acid has caused the fire suppression systems to kick in, and out of the wall of foam, the best looking alien to grace a comic page thus far emerges. If you don't count the one on the cover, which is awesome too. Denis Beauvais has turned in the best art for any Aliens comic ever. When I saw some advanced artwork in issue 6 of the first series, I thought I was looking at a photograph. That's how good it is. Hicks indulges in some Darwinian profundity before brandishing his pulse rifle. Yes, we have pulse rifles that look like real proper pulse rifles, and were curiously absent from the first series. He blows the alien away and splashes acid all over the wall. Hull breach ensues, with Hicks getting caught in the decompression. Newt manages to reopen the hatch and save Hicks. They go back to the bridge and with Butler locate another 2 aliens in the main hangar bay. Butler opens the hangar hatch and they're blown out into space. Or so they think. The aliens, with their usual scoffing at the laws of physics, are on the outer hull and trying to find a way in. With Hicks suffering from a case of the bends and Butler only half the man he used to be, Newt suits up, strikes a pose in this awesome Mobius-like spacesuit, and goes outside with a rifle to clean up. She climbs up to the top of the ship and finds scratch marks left on the hull, not noticing the sweet telltale silhouette of the alien lurking nearby. The alien emerges and Newt just manages to blow it away, the recoil sending her reeling and resulting in her losing hold of the gun. She regains her footing, so to speak, and ends up near one of the ship's engines, only to find the last alien waiting for her. She hollers for Butler to fire them up, and with typical comic book perfection, the alien gets fried and she doesn't. But it all looks so great that you don't really give a shit about how terribly convenient it all is. The ship eventually arrives at a military base on a small unnamed planet and lands. The stowaways emerge to find countless aliens in stasis, and the guy running the show, one General Spears, threatening them with execution if they've damaged the aliens he was expecting. And that's just issue 1, folks. Issue 2 opens with Spears ripping Hicks, Newt and Butler a new one, while Lieutenant Eugene Powell narrates over the top with his plans for possible mutiny against Spears. Hicks and Newt are locked up as Powell explains about Spears' stockpile of aliens and promises of glory to his men. Many of the men aren't buying it, however, and Powell believes open mutiny is not far off. Right on cue, we meet 3 Marines about to go AWOL, Renus, Goins and North. They kill a guard, steal a land vehicle, nicely reminiscent of the Jordan's tractor from the second film, and make for the nearby civilian colony, hoping to find a way off planet. Back at the base, Hicks and Newt's history is brought to the attention of Powell, who tells Spears. Newt awakens from a glorious nightmare of being tied down in front of an alien queen, waiting for a hugger to crawl onto her face, and finds herself in Spears' dining room, a dining room with its own vivarium containing an alien hive. Spears explains to Newt and Hicks, similarly restrained in another chair, that there's been a mix-up as he didn't realise he was dealing with the Corporal Dwayne Hicks of LV-426 and whatever that alien planet was in the last series. Hicks and Newt are seen as assets and therefore given the run of the base. The meal is interrupted by news of the dead guard and stolen tractor, which Spears goes to attend to. Hicks goes to investigate the ship they stowed away on while Newt checks in on the man and his daughter transmitting video of the alien invasion of Earth. Powell introduces himself to Hicks and begins detailing what's been going on at the base. Meanwhile, the AWOL Marines abandon their tractor, rather inexplicably and stupidly as it turns out, and decide to reach the landing field by walking through the atmosphere processor. Their worrying about not encountering any colonists is soon brought into sharp relief when they discover an alien hive infesting the AP station and are promptly attacked. Only Renus survives with hideous acid scarring to be found by Spears. Spears scoffs at Renus' weakness while explaining that the absent colonists gave their lives for the greater good. And that's that for Renus. Issue 3 picks up immediately where 2 left off. Powell expands on Spears' breeding program with the colonists by showing Hicks videos of aliens being let loose in a glass tank with a colonist, and if the alien kills them, they get incinerated. Right in front of the Queen. The Queen goes apeshit. Another alien is let loose, and this time under silent instruction from the Queen, it lets the colonist live. This continues until Spears believes the Queen and the aliens have learned respect for his command. The plan is for Spears to lead these aliens against the ones occupying Earth. Hicks and Powell realise the insanity of this. This insanity is further shown by Spears walking freely around the hive in the colony with impunity, even to the point of hugging an egg. How this happens isn't made clear, but an awesome double-page spread of the hive mixing the silhouettes and detailed highlights of aliens and their victims is at once horrific and beautiful. While Hicks and Powell plan a mutiny while Spears is away at the AP station, Newt has finally remembered she has half a boyfriend who's been missing for an issue or so. Beauvais does a great take on the infirmary from the Nostromo where they're sleeping. Newt is becoming more and more repulsed by Butler. She's full of self-loathing and referring to Butler as it. She puts as much distance between them as she can and focuses on the transmissions from Earth. Things are not well with the little girl. Amy, nothing to do with Ripley's dead daughter, I'm sure, and her father and their cameraman, Ray, are captured by alien cultists and taken to a hive. The transmission cuts off before Hicks, perhaps a tad over-dramatically, goes full auto on the communication centre, destroying everything. Hicks and Powell are taking over, and things like flying broken glass and potential ricochets aren't going to stand in their way. Their men round up the soldiers still loyal to Spears in the dining room. One of them struggles and a gun goes off, smashing the glass between the aliens and the soon-to-be dead humans. Then it's on for young and old. The aliens rapidly spread out across the base, with Hicks and Newt narrowly escaping to the main hangar to meet up with Powell. Newt killing an alien to clear it from a closing door, which causes the inevitable acid breach and more aliens about to follow. Hicks and Powell get ready for a last stand, and Newt decides to get all emo about Butler. At the last second, Spears bursts through the hangar doors in an armoured tractor, having twigged to Powell's treachery earlier. A flamethrower from the tractor separates alien and human, and Spears tells the assembled that the aliens respect the flame, and he's their new master. Issue 4 returns us to the neglected Butler, still in the infirmary, having a bit of a moan about his lot in artificial life, how he'd been screwed over by his makers who programmed him to be too human, which led him to fall in love with Newt, which doesn't make a great deal of sense considering he was made to be a soldier, but anyway. He watches the goings-on in the hangar, where Spears orders his aliens to be loaded onto a ship bound for Earth, and for Hicks, Newt and Powell to be given to the aliens for breeding stock. Well, Butler's having none of that and crawls through the base to the auxiliary control station, all the while being ignored by the aliens who are slaughtering anyone they come across. And it's pretty badass, to be honest. Hicks, Newt and Powell are being taken to the aliens at gunpoint when Powell goes for one of the guards' holstered weapons, and is shot dead on the spot for his trouble. Hicks tries to reason with him, and when a distraction emerges in the form of an alien in the overhead, he grapples with one of them. He's kicked off over a threshold of a large pressure door, which conveniently closes as the aliens attack the guards. Or not so conveniently as it happens, as they twig that Butler must have closed it remotely. Newt is all, "We've got to find him," and Hicks is all, "Fuck that for a laugh," and drags her back to the hangar. stowing away on Spears' ship, the MacArthur. See what they did there? The ship launches, its thrusters frying the remaining soldiers. Spears, realising Hicks and Newt are on board, seals himself on the bridge for the trip back to Earth. The stowaways hole up in the communications deck. In a nice bookend that's even kind of moving, Newt watches a video feed from the base where Butler professes his undying love for her and begs her forgiveness. As if Newt didn't have enough emotional damage already, she now has guilt. Warned away from landing on Earth by a glorious illustration of Gateway, Hicks and Newt take their chances in an escape pod, the design of which is very reminiscent of the pods from 2001, while the launch recalls Ron Cobb's lifeboat launch designs for Alien, just as the MacArthur is very similar to his Nostromo concept designs. Denny B sure did his homework. Spears suits up for the battle to come, with a mini flamethrower, a sword, shiny boots, and a hat. He lands in a ruined city near a ruined flagpole still flying the US flag. The aliens are let loose and he orders them to attack, which of course they do. The nearest target. Spears tries to hold them off with the flamer and the sword, acid eating away half his arm, but the freed queen, completely jack of all her children being barbecued, skewers his head, just as he fries her, and they both go down in flames along with the flag bashing us overhead with the obvious metaphor. Again, it's also beautifully illustrated. One simply does not care. Hicks and Newt dock at Gateway and Newt finds out that Amy is still alive. The video report shows a large, breast-shaped hive straight out of Giga when they're interrupted by a woman you've all been waiting for. Ripley, carrying the most ridiculously huge gun you've ever seen, in a large final panel that launched 1,000 erections. Of course I say ridiculously huge now, but back then it was a case of, holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever, give me the next series now. It really is a fantastic way to cap off a fantastic series. Both Verheiden and Beauvais are at the top of their game, even despite the odd red niggle with the writing. Verheiden doesn't have to deal with the same scope as the first series and is much more focused. And for Beauvais, there is not one bad panel or cover in the entire series. I know I've rabbited on about it, but it's simply phenomenal. There really is not much more than can be said. If you haven't read it now. Aliens comics may arguably equal this, but do not get better than this, as we shall find out next time.